Okay, now can I pause it? Okay, so I don't know very many people that are probably super excited to talk about pain like I am, but you're going to get to hear my story. You're going to get to hear a lot today about how period pain is not normal, and it is something that we can address even in our own lifestyle. So we don't always even have to rely on the healthcare system. And I'm going to talk about some of the problems we're having, at least in the United States healthcare system. I can't speak for other countries, but I can speak for where I live. So my name is Tracy Willingham. I'm a menstrual and menopause coach, and we are just going to jump in and start talking about some of the symptoms that you have and what it really means when you're having period pain. So let's start with some chat fun, because it's not fun if it's just me talking the whole time. So let me pull up my little chat box here so I can see what you're all saying. And let's start with question number one. I've got 4 questions for you, if you can just drop it in the chat. And so question one, what I want to know is, on a scale of 1 being no pain to 10, meaning I cannot leave my bed, how bad is your average period pain? 1, no pain; 10, I cannot leave my bed. Okay, so we've got a 6, a 7, a 9. Oh my goodness. An 8. Okay, you're my people. You're all in the right place, the right time. This is exactly where you need to be. So number 2, what I want you to tell me about missing life events. Put a yes in the chat if you have missed work, school, social events, any of that type of things because of your period at any point in your life. Yes, that's what I expected to see. I did not expect someone to be like, no. If it's no, then, congratulations. I'm excited for you. All right, so let's look at number 3. I want to know how many years you have suffered with your period pain. And don't downplay it and be like, she'll think I'm exaggerating. I want you to tell me really how many years. It could be 30, could be 1. Okay. So we've got some ranges. We've got 2, we've got 30, 28, 8. And this is what we're going to talk about today. You all should really be having to put zeros in here. We should not be having this. Okay, not as bad. Used to be really bad in my teens, me too, but not as bad, but about 25 years. Okay. And last, this is my favorite one. I want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how believable do you find it that we really can talk about solving period pain today? So 1 is, I don't believe it, Tracy. And 10 is, I believe it. I think you're going to come through. So where do you think that we actually could remove pain from period? 1 being, I don't believe it. 10 being like, I'm all in. Okay, I like this. Yeah, I like the range of numbers. This is good. I like that some of you are challenging me. This is great. Okay, so let's jump in and let's start looking at answering some of these questions that we have had. So let's get over here. And you'll notice I'm using a little road today. And the reason for that is we're going to be talking about a lot of pathways to removing your period pain. So let's just jump in super fast. Doesn't have to be a long story, but I want to tell you my story and my why on why I'm doing this and why I want everyone with painful periods to hear about this. So, first one, when you look on my roadmap, there is I have had 30 plus years of dismissals from healthcare providers, healthcare systems, other women. It has been extremely frustrating, anywhere from making fun of me to completely dismissing my concerns. And then number 2, there's just no accountability. So you go to the doctor, you do what you're supposed to do, you make your claim, you ask for the help, and you're denied. You're told a lot of different things that we're going to look at here in a little bit. And what do? There's no accountability in the healthcare system for me to go to when I feel like my concerns are not being heard. no historical sisterhood. And what I mean by that is we have continually, generationally passed down this just mysteriousness, this, um, what is menopause? What is period pain? I don't know. You just go through it. I don't know. You have hot flashes. And when I went to my mom and said, okay, I think I'm perimenopausal, my periods are out of control, she was like, I don't have any answers. My mom told me to like get through it. And then my last reason is no more pills. Just no more pills. I don't want to pop a pill because a lot of times what we're going to find out today is that's masking. That is masking what the true symptoms are. So yeah, you've maybe solved some of my symptoms, but the root cause has not been addressed. And that's what we're going to look at today. So here's our little roadmap. We've done the welcome. We're reviewing what we're going to learn today, right now. We're going to talk about how to move from pain to relief. I'm going to talk to you about a mini plan that's going to bring about change in your life. Then we'll do questions and wrap up. So buckle up, pun intended, and let's go on this roadmap together. So Laura Briden, completely obsessed with her. If you do not follow her on social media, read her books, you've got to meet this woman. Incredible. She has a quote that says, periods without pain are not a myth, but a possibility. And when we listen to our bodies, nourish them well, and find balance within our cycles. That just blew my mind. Periods without pain. I was like, that hasn't happened. What is this about? And so she really is a big, big believer that we can bring about change. So look at this slide. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's completely crazy, and I wanted it to be that way. So this is every sign or symptom that you can have based on your period. You can have every single one of these possibly. And if you look at the last row, you'll see I have pain highlighted and there's a little circle going around it. That's one thing that we're talking about today. And some of these symptoms listed on this list will cause some of that pain to be a little bit extra, a little bit more. And so I want to be what I want to be aware of when we're looking at this is you are not making this up. These are real life symptoms. And so I just want you to keep this list in mind as we go through. And this is why there is no one plan that every woman can take to deal with their period, because we all have different symptoms and signs. So let's look at how we're going to understand the pain today. So we're starting with just the simple pain. It's there. And I'm going to talk about 4 major ways through sleep, nutrition, fitness, and mental health that you can start taking baby steps. And before we go on this little pathway together, I want to just highlight one major thing. And that is, do not try to implement all of these today. I want you to really think about what's your number one symptom and where do you want to start? Because this is going to be just like what science shows us. Everybody joins the gym January 1, and then it starts to people start to drop off. And the reason for that is we usually go all in. New year, new me, let's go. But what we know about human behavior is you have to make sizable, small steps and turn them into habits. And each of those habits are what stack on top of each other, and they bring about change. So just consider that as we're going through this. Where do you want to start? So let's get into some of the stuff that gets me fired up. And I hope by the end of today, you're fired up. So why does the topic of pain even matter? A majority of medical studies historically have used male subjects. And guess what? It wasn't until the 1990s that women were brought into clinical trials. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And once we arrived, 0.5% of medical research is being conducted today on women. So that is 99.5% of medical research on our healthcare is being still tested around men's health and their symptoms. Women are reporting pain that are going in and reporting pain are often prescribed sedatives and antidepressants when men are provided with painkillers. So some feminists are now starting to call out that our generation's hysteria is antidepressants. When you're too loud, when you go too far, when you ask for too much, you're given antidepressants to kind of bring your voice down. Scientists are now highlighting a new healthcare concern, and they're calling it the gender pain gap. There is a huge, huge gap between men and women and how we are believed and prescribed help for pain. And then women are often misdiagnosed or ignored when their symptoms do not fit the male standard of illness. So many autoimmune, think about all the different body parts that we have different. They're not being studied because men don't have those. And so a lot of these stats are from Invisible Women. I put a little QR code there that you can go straight into Amazon. I will tell you, if you read this book, read it like one chapter a week, because you're going to get fired up. And we're about to talk about sleep. I don't want you emailing me and saying, well, I have a sleep problem because of the book you recommended. So, but it's incredible with where we are invisible. So what I want to start with today is it is not all in our heads. It is not in your head. It is not just anxiety. It is not a mental health disorder. And you have not made up these symptoms. And these are actual documented and routinely stated medical diagnoses that women are receiving when they go to their healthcare provider. This is not in your head. Your pain is real, and we're going to look at ways to reduce that down. Here is something frightening, but also, if you're a data dork like me, is amazing to be like, what? So research is beginning to show that the pain we feel with a period is the same as the pain that is felt with a heart attack. And I want you to think about that. We have commercials that tell people to take aspirin. We have medical buildings that have wings just for heart health. We have the American Heart Association. So that is the difference between these two. One has millions of dollars being invested into research and credibility, and the other one is being dismissed as not really, it's not a health concern. It's just a period. So this is what we're going to look at together today. We're going to understand the source. We're going to look at food and hydration, movement, sleep prep, relaxation and meditation, knowing your hormones, and tracking your cycle. And this, again, is a great place to remind you, just choose one. If you look at this, this is overwhelming. And so it's why there's little steps going down and you don't have to follow this path. If you want to do relaxation and meditation and then jump to food, you do what works well on your roadmap. But this is what we're going to talk about today. So I want to just cover the menstrual cycle very quickly. So there are 4 phases in our menstrual cycle. So you have what kicks it off is the bleed. And so that is what we consider the first phase. And then when you finish your bleed, you move into a new phase that's called the follicular phase. This is when we have a lot of energy. This is when we feel better. This is when you will find women typically can work more hours during their follicular and ovulation phase. So when you really need to crank out that new project, that new art piece, that new whatever you want to do, these are the best phases to do it in. You're at your best. You're going to move then from follicular to what our body wants us to always do, which is it wants us to ovulate and make those babies. And so you move into ovulation. It's a very small window. And then you move into your luteal. And this is the phase that we all probably spend the most time thinking about in our period because it's leading into that period. And so many women, you could be having PMS, PMDD, some of these symptoms. I read an article about period flu. It feels like you've got the flu. You're almost like praying for your bleed to come on because you feel so bad. So, and a typical menstrual cycle can range anywhere from 21 to 35 days. There's reasons it might be going longer and all that stuff. And I would encourage you to check out my social media and my website to learn more about how the menstrual cycle works. So let's jump in. Step 1, let's understand the source. So period pain is a signal from your body that something is not right, but it is not the problem itself. So a lot of times people will isolate it to their reproductive organs and be like, there's something wrong with my uterus. There's something wrong with my ovaries. It could be, but it also could be something wrong with your thyroid, your gut health. There are so many things. And what we forget about our bodies is they're meant to work like this. And when one gets off, all the rest are now off. And that's the thing we typically can forget about our human bodies. We're not really an isolated individual. We are a full ecosystem. We've got to investigate those causes. We don't want to just manage the pain. What is causing the issue? And we want to think about, like I just said, digestive, immune health. What else is possibly causing some problems? And then you're going to find that when you're addressing the root, you're going to be looking at things like lifestyle changes. You're going to look at, hormonal stability, and even proper medical support. Some of the things that you are experiencing, it does require the healthcare system. So food and hydration. Let's just lay it out and be truthful right now. This girl loves some cheeseburgers. I love eating some candy. So I am not going to be preaching from the choir here on like that I have nailed food and hydration yet, but I'm working towards it. And what I want to tell you is these next few phases, I have personally been working on them the last few months. And I started my period at age 14. I am now 47. And my last two periods, I had zero pain. So it is possible. And I haven't even mastered all of these, but the small steps I'm taking is bringing about change. So, what you eat and drink, look at that list. It's going to help you prevent water retention, bloating. It's going to reduce cramping. It supports your muscle function. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll get those horrible leg cramps during my period. That is just horrible. And it's going to support healthy blood flow. And so I gave you two tips in the corner on this slide. So eat healthy fats, protein, and fiber. Now, I have a piece of news that is not going to be so exciting for some women. The best time to eat protein is really at your breakfast. And I know some women are like, I don't eat breakfast, or I got to go. I don't got time for that. You really need to make it a big part of your day, because what I want you to think about is we as women do not eat enough protein at all. Guaranteed. When women start increasing their protein, it's insane the changes they'll see. So think about, is there just even a small way? And guess what? I'm here to help you figure out things. Maybe it's a protein shake. Maybe it's adding some bacon to your breakfast. But that we can talk about. So think about ways that you can start to really bring in and stabilize your blood sugar for the day. Anti-inflammatory foods, leafy greens, berries. I put in like turmeric is really good, but it's like this orangey powder. Maybe that's not super appealing. It comes in supplements. So there's ways to get around it. Also, I'm here for you that if you're like, I'm not a rabbit so much, I'm not really digging the leafy greens. I get it. I've got ways that you can get those things into your diet to start helping with that. So start thinking about some foods and hydration. Next one, movement. Let's just call it out. In the United States, we're not so good at this. Other countries, I feel like they're kind of schooling us on the movement. Where I live in Texas. My city is not set up for walking. It is set up to drive. You cannot walk to the nearest grocery store. So you already have some issues in some of our cities that don't even support movement. But what I want you to think about are some different things. So looking at the list of what regular movement helps. My favorite one is it releases endorphins, which is your body's natural painkiller. I am not the most like, let's get up and exercise and let's go, but I love that feeling at the end when it's done and I'm sweaty and I'm like, man, that felt good. That's my endorphins. And they're helping with pain in my body. But what I want you to look at is there is a movement among a lot of different women that I follow, a lot of different women I subscribe to work out with, that are talking about, could you work out around your menstrual cycle? And so they are suggesting things like high intensity exercise maybe doesn't need to be done all month long. Maybe during your luteal and your bleed, you could bring in low impact exercises like I have listed there, swimming, Pilates, cycling. So you're still moving, you're still getting that health that you need, you're getting stress out. But the thing that people forget about our bodies is they don't know our bodies do not know the difference between good and bad stress. They just know stress. And so you will have women who will be like, I don't understand it. I worked out, I went for it, and I'm inflamed. And it's like, yeah. And that might be because we need to look at more gentle, because that's what your body might need right now. What's your energy levels at? What are your hormones doing? So, just some things to think about as you're looking into exercising. Okay, this is the one right now that I am battling. Sleep and I are like in a boxing match right now. I am struggling with sleep. And so I want to point this out because I want you to know it's not an easy overnight fix either. I am working at it. We have to work at it to reduce our pain. And sleep plays a huge role. And the number one reason why is you think about what is the purpose of sleep? It's to rebuild our bodies. That's what they're doing. They're repairing themselves while we sleep. If you're not getting full, uninterrupted sleep, your body cannot repair itself at the highest level that it needs to. So I'm going to call myself out right now. One of my biggest things that I love to do is read. And I'm also a cheap girl. Started my own business, so I got to watch my dollars. So I get all of my reading material from the library and from Kindle Unlimited, which comes to what? It comes to my phone. It comes to my iPad. So then I sit in bed and I read my books on a blue light. And then the cortisol levels are rising. And they're like, well, I guess we're staying awake. I guess we're doing this. I am really trying to combat that right now because it's my favorite thing to do, but I know it's not serving my body right now. So there are things like doing a pre-sleep ritual, get your body to start getting these cues. It's time for bed. Maybe you need a dark, quiet, cool environment. Maybe you're cold sensitive, so you want a warm environment. Make it what it needs to be for you. I'm telling you right now, with me going through perimenopause, my poor husband, I'm just like, throw some blankets on if it's too cold in here for you because I've got to do it. So there's some compromise. Maybe you got to have some separate bedrooms for a while, whatever you got to do to stay comfortable. That's what you need to do right now. And I love essential oils and aromatherapy that can really help bring in just some scents. And don't forget sound. You can listen to sound bowls, you can listen to music, anything to kind of just help your body move into getting away from the sleep deprivation. Because as you can see listed, there's a lot of issues when you don't get sleep. So let's look at relaxation and meditation. I love this stuff. And when I first got into it, I was like, okay, so breathing is somehow going to solve my pain and my life is going to be magical. And then some wizard stuff happened. And then I was like drinking the juice. I was like, this stuff really works. So, what I want you to think about is looking at it calms the nervous system. And when you calm your nervous system, that's when you start seeing the muscle tension disappear. Your brain has a different response to things. You're lowering your cortisol, and then you're just relieving air, especially in the pelvic area. So, a lot of women, we know that we carry our stress up here. What is being discovered is women are carrying their most, I would say, traumatic and dangerous pain in their hips. So if you sit on the ground and you can't cross your legs like you used to, if you just don't feel like you're as flexible, you may have some stress stored in your hips and you need to start addressing that. And some things that you can do, you can use guided meditation apps. Here in the next couple of months, I am working on, and I should have about 200 meditations for free on my website that you can listen to. And it's going to be for a various amount of things. So pay attention there. You can listen to those. Listen to music. If you live in a beautiful place, get out in nature. And then yoga nidra is probably one of my favorite things. So it's deceptive because it says yoga. You're not really getting into a lot of positions. The yoga nidra I've done is you lay down and it's a small part of the yoga practice. So you're supposed to have the lows and the high, the restorative. But there is brilliance in the full practice of yoga of laying still, just lying down and being still. That does so much for the human body. So, breath as well. I have actually been able to breathe myself through some pain. For those of you, I have never delivered a baby, but first of all, kudos to anyone who has. But I mean, you think about some of the basic things they teach women is the breath work during labor. Breath is so powerful for our bodies, but we don't remember to use it, to slow down and let it guide us. So those are some things you can do to start working through. The other thing I want to talk about with the hip and the shoulder stress is I really want to validate and acknowledge that there's big T trauma and there's little T trauma. And I feel like so many women write off the little T traumas, like, oh, well, I haven't had my house burned down, or I wasn't in a horrible car accident. Little traumas, those little T's, they build and build and build. And then you find yourself at a big T trauma. And I just want to encourage you to not make light of the traumas that you have experienced as a human being. Your trauma, this is not a competitive, we are not in the Olympics. We are not comparing our traumas to each other. Your trauma matters as much as mine or anyone else's. And when we don't address it, that's where the big T traumas start showing up. So I just wanted to put that here to acknowledge, don't write off your little T and your big T traumas. Those are real and those are impacting your period. Okay, so now knowing your hormones, we're almost done. You've made it. I feel like you guys are scientifically educated. I feel like you're going to go out and school everybody you know. But let's look at what you need to know about your hormones during each phase. So during the follicular phase, you are getting rising estrogen because it's getting ready to make that baby. Let's go. Cue the music, cue the candles. Your follicular phase is like, let's get it ready. But it is not uncommon that if some of your hormones are still having some issues, that you might have some mood swings or even some cramps. You get into ovulation, and I have so much more to talk about luteinizing hormone. I plan to do a webinar about that because it is fascinating how the brain plays a role in all of our menstrual cycle. It's just fascinating. But the luteinizing hormone is one that triggers ovulation, and you can have ovulation pain. There have been times if it's doing too much, too little, you can experience pain. Then you get into your luteal phase, and it's the phase where it's like, well, I guess we're not making this baby. So now you've got low progesterone. And that's going to cause a lot of those PMS symptoms that we experience: bloating, irritability, cramping. And then when you actually get into the bleed part, this is where you're shedding the uterine lining. This is where your cramps are really starting to show up now. And so what I want you to know is there's three things with your hormones that I want you to know. One, we have to address them. So through lifestyle changes is one of the easiest things you can do today. Two, you got to track them. You have to understand, where's my estrogen? Where's my cortisol? What is my insulin doing? And then you got to test them. It helps you take the right steps. You don't have to test them all the time, but some routine checkups looking at, where are my levels at? How am I doing? Because we can't see inside our bodies. And so we need to take those tests at time to see, okay, the work I'm doing has moved some things around, but I'm still hurting in this area. And our last pit stop. If all of this seems so overwhelming today, you're like, Tracy, listen, no, you're crazy. I'm not ready to talk food. Sleep is out of control. This is the easiest place you could probably start if you haven't done any of this before, and that is tracking your period. And I'm going to tell you why. So, it does help you predict when pain is coming. If you start to track your period and you realize day 2 every cycle I have horrendous pain, okay, now we know what day we need to work into to get you ready. It lets you see, are there specific phases that you're having problems with? Maybe now we know a certain hormone is not doing its job because you are having problems in your luteal phase every time. It lets you look at the duration and the intensity of the pain. And then it lets you factor in, is there some food that is not serving my higher purpose? Is there food that I love, but it's triggering me? But my number one reason on why I say tracking your period, and this is just me getting all activists up in all of the world's face to say it provides concrete information to take to your doctor's appointments. It is so much easier to be written off when you just come into the doctor and say, I have period pain and it hurts and this and that. When you bring in 3 months worth of period tracking documentation and say, here's my period over the last 3 months. I've circled the areas that I find an issue, and I would like to talk today about how to fix those. You just came in with facts, hard facts, and it's a lot harder to dismiss what is in writing and what is factual. And so that's why I'm a big supporter of tracking your period. Is you are coming in with those facts, you are coming in to close the case. And if a doctor says and throws the papers, then you got to move on to the next one. But that is really how you start to understand, what is my period trying to tell me? So let's go back to the chat for a minute because it's fun. And again, nobody wants to hear me talk this whole time. But what I want to know from you is what what of the 7 steps do you feel like you really could benefit from starting with today? So again, thinking about the commitment we made, we're going to start small. We're going to we're not going to try to do it all tonight. So tell me, share with me in the chat, where do you want to start? Nutrition, relaxation, tracking your period? Okay. Ooh, lots of relaxation. Okay, you guys are my people. I'm all in, man. I am. I just recently had someone who I was talking to another friend and she said, I just feel lazy. I feel so lazy if I take a moment for myself. And I was like, no, that's called relaxation and you're owed. We're all owed relaxation. We are not lazy because we want to lay down for a little bit. Tracking, love that. I'm all in on the tracking, nutrition. I love you guys. You guys are my people. This is so great. Yeah, so just start small. Do not back yourselves into so much. Just choose where you want to go. So I want to tell you about how I want to help you. And before we get into all of it, it's all free. So let's start there so nobody panics like, oh gosh. But I want you to meet my first client, and it's me. And the reason I chose this, because I have worked with some women, is this is me in my 20s. We were getting ready to go clubbing because that's what I don't know. That shows how old I am. And we were going clubbing. It was time to get it. And I had just been diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, which is PCOS. You've probably heard people abbreviate it. A lot of it was just my period was heavy. My period, most of my eggs have cysts, so they're not going to be viable for fertilization. I've got hormonal belly, all this stuff. And I was given a pamphlet and said, you have PCOS, good luck. And what I didn't know was going to face me really over the next 20 plus years was a lot of what we talked about in the beginning, being misunderstood, being told I'm too much, you're making too much out of this. And some people just flat out making fun of me. I've had nurses that made fun of some of my trauma in front of my fiance, now husband, about things like she should have lots of wine on her wedding night. This is not okay. This is not okay. And because of our healthcare system not taking this stuff seriously, I went and got trainings and I learned how to do this because I'm done. I'm done with a system that doesn't validate me as a human being. So what I want to show you next is, so I'm committed to helping as many individuals experience this because everybody deserves to feel better and have fewer symptoms. And you need to be understood on your journey. My journey is different than your journey, than the next sister's journey. And so we have to treat it that way. It's individualized. And I am committed to helping you get relief from your periods. And that's why I'm going to offer a free, and this is not one of those like free, like with strings attached, 100% free one-on-one session that I'm calling period relief sessions. So you probably want to know, Tracy, What are those sessions about? And I'm going to tell you all about those. What you can do is we're going to drop a link. I have two friends today, Angela and Michelle, who are helping me, and I'm so grateful they're here. So they're going to drop in a link that can take you to book an appointment with me, or you can use this QR code and that'll take you to my booking as well. And I'm going to have this QR code on several pages. So if I go through fast, don't panic. I got you. But before we talk about it, I am 100% the girl that always says, I don't know. And I always have some kind of like resistance. So I wanted to put this out here in case there's another Tracy on this meeting today. So, time. I know your time is valuable, and that is why I'm keeping this call to a 30-minute call. I want to get you in and out, and I want to address your symptoms effectively. We don't have to make this a long thing. Money, it's why it's free. I started my own business. I understand now the impact of a dollar. So, but I want to work through this without any financial risk to you. And then confidence. I want to prepare you for upcoming healthcare visits, for asking for what you need and getting what you need. And so I want to work on putting a plan and a script together. So let me move on to this, my little screen.
Tracy, can you drop the link? Sorry, but the link disappeared and I
Yeah,
couldn't get it back.
let me do that right now. Let me see if I can get it for you all. Let's see if it pastes in here. Let's do. Okay, let's see if this works. Tell me if you all see it. Let's see. Yes. Okay, perfect. So there's the link. You guys can use that. And then again, here's that fancy QR code. So during your 30-minute session, what we're going to do is we are going to look at assessing your biggest problem. So what's your biggest problem? I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to come in and tell me, this is what's irritating me today, Tracy. And then we're going to develop a mini plan to implement what we think is going to work best. And we can determine then if we need more time to work together, but that's really not what this 30-minute session is about. It's really about, let's choose one thing. Let's give you some tips. And then I want to hear back from you. I want to hear it worked. It didn't work. I felt a little bit of adjustment. I didn't follow through. What do I do now? So this is just to get to know each other and start the conversation. I do have a note on here. I'm trying to keep these to Thursday, Friday, and Monday only, but I also know life is crazy. So if we can try to keep it in those 3 days, that's awesome because I want to just get going. But if you need some more, let's see what we can do to try to help you. And then just a couple other things. We're almost done with our time together. I want to take questions in just a moment. But while I take those questions, here's some ways you can also keep in touch with me. So I am on Facebook under Ignite Inner Wellness. And my favorite home, my favorite place to be is Instagram, though. But I will be on Facebook. So if that's where you're comfortable, but where I love to spend my time is Instagram. So you have my handle there. Also, my newsletter is where I am offering people deeper discounts to any type of programs or events that I'm offering than anywhere else. I also am offering free downloads that you will not always see on my website. I do have a lot of downloads and things I try to put on my website, but I try to keep some things just for my newsletter folks. So you can subscribe there, and then you still have your book now for the period relief session. And then one last thing, and then let's open up the floor, is I just want to thank you for attending. If you didn't share your email address, or if you're like, ooh, I gave you an email address that I don't really like, but now I want you to send it to this one, you can use that one QR code listed there and give me the address you prefer. I am sharing this webinar as a replay. So, I would love to send it to an email that is, listen, I have like 12 emails, so I get it. I have like I don't really want some stuff, and this is my real email address. So let me know if you want it to go somewhere else. And then I also have, as my last part on this screen, is that you can book for your period relief session. But what I really just want to end with is, one, I want to thank you for being here. Two, I can't even believe that I get to spend my life working with people to reduce their period pain, their menopausal pain. It's amazing. And that's really what I hope you feel from me today. And my intention is I just want to acknowledge and validate what you have gone through. And I want to start working to bring you back to a place where your period does not control your life. Because we've got too much to do. We've got magical things. We are all been called to do amazing things, and we don't have time for periods anymore. So we're going to talk about them and we're going to address them and we're going to heal together. And then that's my firm belief is how the healthcare system is going to change is one woman at a time. And if we have to do it outside of their walls, we will. And that will bring about systemic change. So thank you. So to make it easy, so it doesn't get like crazy or people are like, Zoom, the weird, like everybody tries to talk. If you have a question, why don't you drop it in the chat? And I'm going to pull that up so that I can see if you have any questions. Um, if not, that's okay. I've also provided you my email address if you're like, I do have a question, but it's highly, highly personal, Tracy. So please don't, put that out in front of everybody. Okay, so we do have one question. Any recommendations on tracking the periods? So there is a lot of ways you can do this depending on what you prefer. So you can use paper and pencil. You can make it so easy. There are free downloads, and I'll try to include a few of those free downloads in the follow-up emails so that you can look at those and see if one fits. Of course, there's always fancy apps that you can use to track it. I like to use so I'm tracking mine through one that's called Temp Drop. So it's a little band that I wear around my arm, and it has a little temperature thing that goes here and it takes my temperature while I sleep. But I also track all my symptoms. And I mean, I'm logging everything. Like today, I went from happy to angry, and I don't know why. That nothing happened. I just suddenly hated everybody so that I can get a really full picture and look back on some things. So that's a great question. Any other questions that I can address for you today? Again, you can always go to my website. You can book your period session and we can talk about, we can always talk about whatever you want to talk about. Maybe you're not even ready to start yet. Maybe you just want me to hear your story, and that's where we start. Yes, basal body temperature is huge. So take that temperature. I always laugh because like the traditional thermometer, they tell you to wait like 10 minutes in bed and then put it under your tongue. And I'm like, who's got 10 minutes in the morning to just lay and be like, gotta take my temp. So take it anyways when you wake up. It's going to be close enough. If you really want to get in there, then you can use things like I use, like the temp drop that monitors my sleep and some other things. But you can just use a good old standard thermometer and start tomorrow morning. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I will get this replay out to you within 24 to 48 hours. I usually try for 24. And then we know each other now. We're friends. I hope so. At least I'm counting you, my friend. Hopefully that doesn't scare you, but we're friends now. You're not getting rid of me that easily. So talk to me. Let me know how I can support you. Let me know questions you have. And yeah, let's reduce period pain together. I'm ready to be out and have fun with everyone. Um, my friend Micah's on here. Yeah, we are friends. I kind of forced myself on her. So I was like, we're gonna be friends. There's no way you're not getting around it. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you book a period relief session with me and then follow me and let's get to know each other. And I hope you all have an amazing Wednesday. Thank you all so, so much. All right. And let's stop the record.